My name is Nandini Harihareshwara. I am a senior advisor to the UN Capital Development Fund's Inclusive Digital Economies Division. It's my pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker, Ms. Sujata Kartikeyan. She is an Odisha cadre IIS officer, presently leading Odisha's Women's Self-Help Group involvement as a commissioner cum director for Mission Shakti. Ms. Sujata has a rich experience in several key sectors of public administration during her career, spanning 19 years. She has held several posts in state administration, including the post of district collector, director, and commissioner in various government departments. Mission Shakti is a pioneering women's empowerment initiative of the state of Odisha. It has drawn many national and international attention and coverage for the many transformative initiatives that it has undertaken. Self-help groups and their convergence with the government departments for livelihood promotion, financial assistance through Mission Shakti loans, the digitization of self-help groups, and e-commerce platforms, coupled with the unlocking of women power of 70 lakh women in 6 lakh self-help groups, are amongst the major achievements made by Mission Shakti in recent years. My pleasure to be introducing our keynote speaker, Ms. Sujata. Please take it away.
Thank you, Nandini. It's my pleasure to be here at this festival, and it is truly my honor to present Mission Shakti to a wider global audience. Shakti, the word, denotes the strength of the feminine. It's a reference to the primordial female energy that many believe runs and drives the universe. So Mission Shakti, aptly named, is the brainchild of Odisha Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik. It was he who launched this program in 2001 on the International Women's Day on 8th March. And the basic idea was to tap into the SHG platform for holistic empowerment of women. Today in 2020, it's no longer a program. It has got a life of its own, a momentum of its own, and it has taken along its way 7 million women in 600,000 self-help groups across the state in urban and rural pockets, and is one of the largest women's networks anywhere in the world. The transformative role that Mission Shakti has played in the last 19 years is remarkable. It is no longer a program, as I said. It has a powerful momentum that has grown beyond its stated vision, touching lives not only of the women it serves, but also of the families, communities, and societies they live in. We have now reached a particular stage in our journey with women. And from here, we have to take off to the next stage. We have achieved a fair amount of success on primarily 3 fronts, and I'm very proud to share with you those. One is the absolute organizational level. In terms of organization and structure, it is no mean feat to get 7 million women on board a government platform. And across the state, in hard-to-reach hamlets and pockets, I would like to share with you that there is no single hamlet or ward or small group of families staying anywhere across Odisha where a Mission Shakti woman does not exist. So we have covered almost all households. So in terms of absolute institution and structure and organization to get these women on board, to build and federate them into federations of self-help groups at different levels, at the panchayat level, at the block level, at the district level, and at the state level. And also giving them faith that this structure will actually deliver what they need. That has been primarily our first success, and the success is basically of the women. Second, I would like to say the second front where we've achieved a fair and modest amount of success is financial inclusion of women. So all these 7 million women have access to bank accounts. I mean, one of the criteria of belonging to an SHG is to have a bank account, and then the SHG also has a bank account. So almost 3,000 crore credit flows to them annually through the institutional structures, the formal financial structures. So in a way, they have moved away from the traditional money lenders, which women historically depended on for their small financial needs. So a modest level of success is the financial inclusion of women. Third, and most importantly, what I would say is the biggest success of Mission Shakti, and where it makes it slightly different from the other self-help group movements across India, is that the link that they have to government through this scheme. You see, government is still in many societies the biggest provider and the biggest changer of lives and livelihoods. Mission Shakti provided a platform to women to be linked to government, and it works both ways. So if government has to undertake a huge community outreach program, or there is something where the community has to be involved, Mission Shakti women are the warriors for government because they can penetrate every household in the shortest amount of time. The message can reach whom it has to reach. And on the other side, women have got a voice in almost all government platforms. Today, I can say with utmost certainty that if there is any committee formed which will work for people, that committee has to have a representation of SHGs, be it the Village Health and Sanitation Committee, the Nutrition Committee, the School Management Committee. So anything which directly impacts lives at the grassroots level, if government forms a committee to oversee that, to monitor that, it will have self-help groups, which is a big success because it means that their voices are being heard, they are being part of the decision making. And to give you an example of how the link with government and providing platform to women's voices has actually been a success, I would take the example of the recent pandemic. During COVID, in the initial days, when in March it was just being heard and there were 1 or 2 cases reported within the state, there was a spontaneous outburst of leadership among our Mission Shakti women, who it is very remarkable because there was still the threat of life. One didn't know how the disease progressed and one was having these gory images from the rest of the world. But there was a spontaneous outburst of leadership. They came forward. Their first big intervention was to educate every household on what is COVID-19. And they linked it to the Mahamaris of previous times with smallpox, and they actually explained to women that this is how you have to take care, and we have faced it before and we will face it again. It's not something new. So they would, one, directly to their families, to their neighbors, to the societies they live in, they would have small meetings in the chokkas, in the nukkars, and educate. And that is where Odisha achieved a huge amount of success initially in doing this awareness activity, which then prompted people to go into mask wearing and social distance and hand washing. Secondly, again spontaneously, I would say, they took up mask making as a huge activity. And today, almost 7 million masks have been distributed just through the SHG network. They made it and they distributed it. And this was not such a for-profit activity, because they have given it free of cost to their local health institutions, to the care centers where destitute women, children live, to the orphanages, to medical workers. So 7 million masks by our women. Then another remarkable thing that they did during COVID as an example of the leadership and partnership with government is they gave almost 2 crore meals were distributed during this time in our panchayat centers, because government mandated that during COVID, when there was extreme lockdown, there would be vulnerable categories of people who may not be able to cook food or find food. So free meals were started in every panchayat and every urban body. And who were to cook the meals? It was these women who were already federated in a structure. They came out and cooked meals. And, during the time when there was utmost terror about this pandemic. So 20 million meals were cooked by our women. Then, when there was lockdown and people did not have access to grocery and daily necessities, they actually set up small shops in local areas so that households could take stuff from them. So they would go to the big markets and get stuff and then sell it there. Later, government pitched in, and we did a lot of encouragement of these spontaneously started programs. So for every meal that they gave, they were given a small 2 rupee as a, incentive and other things. So this leadership is actually where Mission Shakti has scored over others. And this is what will take it forward. And this is what provides it the momentum, that it is no longer just a government program. Then generally, we think of women in traditional roles, but they break all these barriers and enter the male bastions. This is again a very critical part of this leadership. So through Mission Shakti, you easily address the 50% population, which is generally left out from government programs. So now what next? We have reached some success, but we are not going to rest on this. The next stage is to deepen the financial inclusion of our women. Right now, which is currently limited to loan-taking behavior. Mainly it is loans and repayment, but there is a huge array of financial services which they need to get access to. Second, to connect self-help groups to wider worldwide markets by leveraging e-commerce. To use digital solutions to further our aspirations of women and deepen their financial health. So basically digital, financial, and wider worldwide markets. This, in fact, the pandemic has shown us very clearly that this is the need of the hour. And this is where our partnership with UNCDF comes in, which is very, very correctly timed, I would say. We would set up, it's already been approved, and we are in the process of setting up the living labs in the country, in the state, which will directly impact 3.5 million women, which would provide them digital solutions and e-commerce. And we are so looking forward to this partnership, because if you see from whatever we have built through the years, this is the logical and the next step forward. So on behalf of the 70 lakh women whom Mission Shakti represents, I thank the organizers of this program, and I'm grateful that their voice and aspirations were projected on this global platform. And these women, rural, urban, from the interior pockets, they continue to inspire us on our journey. And we look forward to creating greater collaborations with like-minded organizations to impact their lives and the communities they live in, to inspire more women to dream big. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sujata. That was a very inspirational keynote. I think when we talk about women's economic empowerment, I think it's always best to start talking with people who really know what they're talking about and have gone through the tests, trials, and tribulations of how to do this, because it's no easy task. I think you make it sound easy.
No, it's a lot of hard work with a lot of people working in the grassroots and a lot of commitment from our women, yes.
I think I want to just emphasize to the audience that this is a group of 7 million women that you have worked with. You stated some of the major achievements that you have been able to achieve prior to COVID, and then during COVID is amazing. And it sounds like some of those are really driven by them themselves, which is tremendous. So you, Ms. Sujata, you oversee one of the biggest programs in the world focused on women's economic empowerment, covering 7 million women. What do you feel is unique to the Odisha context for women that might be different from other women in India, might be different from other women in the world? What do you think is unique there? What story is there?
So, thank you, Nandini. Actually, it's my belief that women across societies are more similar than different. They have similar needs and aspirations, and they have similar capabilities, provided opportunities are provided to survive and to thrive. So that way, if you see, women's aspirations across societies do not really differ. But what is unique to the Odisha is our context, the context in which the women live. So 40% of Odisha's population belongs to traditionally marginalized communities, which come from the tribal and the scheduled caste segment. So this has unique challenges of its own. Large parts of our state have forests and tough terrain, interior pockets which are cut off by water bodies or hilly tracts. So even physical access, which has been gradually improving with huge infrastructure investment, but traditionally and historically, there are communities which live on hilltops, on cut-off areas. So nutritional needs, access to finance, these are major challenges in certain parts. Historically, we have had serious challenges in terms of malnutrition, poverty levels, health indices, which, adversely impacts women. Then access to institutional finance. 1/3 of our rural areas do not have brick and mortar branches. So when we talk of financial inclusion and access to a bank where she can have and keep her savings, even the basic financial interactions, so that becomes a challenge. But what is also unique to Odisha is that we have a hugely proactive political leadership committed to women and a government that is totally committed to women. If you've seen the last 20 years, what has happened in terms of health, nutrition, in major indicators, Odisha has shown a huge jump. And it actually matters when you have a leadership that is committed. So both at the political and at the bureaucratic level, government has been totally committed to the cause of women. And Honorable Chief Minister Odisha actually believes that a key feature of governance, a foundation stone of governance is empowerment of women. And that will give multitude benefits in all sectors. And that is probably also why Mission Shakti was started in 2001 with the single point agenda of empowerment of women. So that is also unique to the Odisha context. Unlike other states, now to bring women into the fold, you said it sounded easy, it looked easy, but what Odisha did is it used women to bring women into the fold of Mission Shakti, which always works in the long term and it makes it more sustainable. So who were our women? They were the Anganwadi Didis. Odisha is probably one of the few states, one of two states probably, which used Anganwadi Didis to form these groups of women. So in 2001, when it started, and when in the villages and across towns, SHGs were unheard of, and women were saying, why should we join an SHG? So these Anganwadi workers, after their working hours, at no extra pay, would go and convince them of the power of forming groups. And then mentor them. Sorry
to interrupt, Madam. Tell us what these Anganwadis are for the audience that doesn't know.
So India has this integrated child development system. It's a flagship program of the government of India, which is there for years and years. And the main work of this integrated child development system is to have nutrition centers in small pockets for a population, for a given population, nutrition centers where children come, receive one healthy meal. Now it has become two, so a breakfast meal and a lunch meal, and they take preschool education and they go back. So this is for the 3 to 6 year category, and for the 0 to 3 year category, packets of dried powder, the take-home ration it is called. So it's a ready-to-eat mix is given. Pregnant women are checked over there for their pregnancy development and their health needs. And a lot of sanitation, health, nutrition, advocacy happens in these centers. And they are run by somebody called the Anganwadi worker, who's the local lady of that village who has a bit of an education. There is an education level that you have to pass. And she is assisted by a helper who basically cooks food. So these are centers where nutrition is provided, nutrition advocacy is done, and a bit of preschool education. So most children in rural and in urban slums go to these centers. So these are the Didis, the Anganwadi workers, who then got together, the mothers of these children, and said, why don't you form groups? There is benefit in forming groups. This is not their original work. Their original work was what I just stated. So this is where Odisha started 19 years ago, making them mentors for these women. So it worked in myriad ways. When they spoke of sanitation, they would call these groups. When they spoke of nutrition, they would call these groups. And you know what has happened? A beautiful thing has happened right now. When I said take-home ration, a ready-to-eat mix is provided to women and to children, to pregnant women and to children who cannot come below 3 years. This take-home ration is actually made by our self-help group. So Mission Shakti, in other states, there are other people doing this. Odisha is the only state where self-help group women make this take-home ration and provide it to the children and to the mothers. And it works in beautiful ways because they are the nutrition advocates. They are the mothers of the children. So we have set up small units where they can roast, grind, and powder the mixture. The mixture has specific components. There is Bengal gram, there is groundnut, there is sugar, which has to be put in specific quantities. So they measure it out, they do it, and on a fixed day, they packet it and they distribute it. And this is work of 700 crores per annum. So this money is what is going to our self-help groups. So the turnover is 700 crores. The profit may not be that much. But this is an activity that they do for the women and children.
Can I interrupt you for one moment?
Yes.
Also, because I think we only have 30 minutes left, maybe. But what is very unique about this, and what I think is very interesting, and this goes into some of the other conversation we'll have in the next few minutes, is these are building blocks that you have developed, that the political support and the government support has provided, but women as well, for women to become builders, right?
Yes.
They are builders of this economy, starting with these DDs and then the self-help groups, and then the ability for them to create income for themselves. Those are building blocks, as I see it, and you have to tell me if you would agree.
It is.
For them to be builders of the Odisha economy. That's amazing.
Yes. So when I said political leadership, it is backed by actual work. So when we are saying about what is unique to the Odisha context, last year the cabinet passed a memorandum saying 5,000 crores worth of goods and services would be procured by government only from self-help groups. And what are the goods and services we are talking about? Midday meals, take-home ration, preschool uniforms, school uniforms, electricity meter reading, paddy procurement. These are areas where government works, where women have entered, and the government has stated its commitment saying 5,000 crores worth of goods and services would be procured only from Mission Shakti SHGs. So it has walked the talk. And every year we try to achieve 1,000 crores worth of that. So that is in the next 5 years. So this is the unique thing about the Odisha context. Then the state has also put in a system of Mission Shakti loans, which is loans up to 3 lakhs. The interest component is paid by government. So basically they are zero interest loans. They are not given upfront. It is an interest subvention. So it encourages the loan repaying ability and the habit of SHG. So once you repay your loan to the banks, the interest component goes back to your savings account. And in the same context, providing federation. So you have SHGs and you give make them start businesses. That is one thing. But the government has committed that there will be a state-level federation of SHGs, which will actually participate in decision-making at the state level. It will be sort of like, a small women's cabinet kind of thing. So these are the ways in which the Odisha context is more unique than the others. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. And actually ties to the next question I have. So in the world of women's economic empowerment and gender equality, time and time again, and increasingly when you go to big conferences or you're having one-on-one conversations with practitioners such as yourselves, one of the critical barriers to empowerment is cultural and social norms, right? India is not alone, yes. In the challenge of, in some places, right, it's not universal, right? There are lots of places where people do believe in gender equality, but there are many places where they don't. And there are many places where a community, a family, might not believe that a woman or a girl should have access to a phone, should have access to a bank account, should have any sort of financial or digital autonomy, is what I call it, or financial freedom. And that is definitely a challenge for India. And so I wonder, can you tell us a little bit about what your discovery has been? I mean, sourcing from 7 million women, I'm sure you hear from them. How does it impact the work that you do, and how does it impact the women that you work with, and how have you worked to overcome some of those challenges?
Right. So cultural and social norms, as you said, can be inhibitors for women across the world. But all successful programs work with and around these inhibitors. You have to take it as a given and work with them. And it is possible. So I would give you a few pointers to how we have done it. Like very successful programs which target women, a very simple thing is, when do you do your trainings with women? Traditionally, if you take trainings, government trainings happen in the morning at 10 o'clock or at 11 o'clock. That's the time that women cannot attend. So you will find that such kind of trainings would not have women in them, and you don't reach the target audience. Trainings for women have to happen in the afternoon, when women traditionally have time to give for 1 or 2 hours. So we can work around them if there is a little creativity and basically sensitivity to your audience, if you really want to target women. And we've done it in various ways. I told you about the nutritional, one of the major problems with women is the care economy and the time poverty that women have. They share the major burden of the elderly and childcare, and it's a given. I mean, you cannot wait to change that before women come into the entrepreneurial sector. So the major burden falls on women, and time is a constraint. Now, Mission Shakti works with this constraint. So if you see, the SHG platform basically says you can sit at home and you can make money. And you can better your lives. You can get information relating to what you need. So this is where Mission Shakti comes in, and we form self-help groups of women who live in the same neighborhood, who have very similar kind of lives. So when they decide to meet once a week, it would most probably be, they decide it's a Friday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon, when most of them do not have any other kind of work. They meet for an hour. And we work so that farm and on-farm kind of businesses happen in situ. We rarely structure our training programs outside of their milieus. So we work with the care economy and the time burden that women face. Then women are less likely to own assets or collaterals. That is a given, norm that very, very less likely to, though Odisha things are slightly better. So again, the SHG thing with banks, so you don't need collaterals for SHG loans or for federation loans. Group loans and no collateral, and we stress mainly on group activity. Then their control over household resources is also minimal. So that is why microcredit. Their needs are minimal, but it needs to be fulfilled on time. So we are looking at microcredit, and that is where we are stressing on that 1 lakh, 2 lakh kind of loans, which can be given to them easily without going to banks also. So they fill up forms and they give it online, and there are our workers who coordinate with the banks and give it to them. Trainings, during the pandemic, we've had a number of trainings on Zoom. We worked with the digital resources that Odisha government has again put in money so that every group has access to a smartphone. We've given them money to buy a smartphone of their choice so that every group has access to at least a smartphone, and that opens up a lot of vistas. So the woman is not looking at the phone of her husband or her brother or her son waiting for that. She has a smartphone, and we've undertaken training so that they know how basic operation of smartphone. And now with UNCDF, we are going to take it forward where we actually get them onto e-commerce sites. Already some women are there, but we want most of them. Then, they again, addressing cultural and social norms, we try to make sure that certain traditional bastions we enter so that becomes kind of aspirational for the other women looking at them. Like women in Odisha, SHGs in Odisha are doing electricity meter reading. Now, what is that? It sounds very simple. Electricity meter reading, anybody can do, but they go with their meter boxes and their things. And electricity companies have found it is much better to get SHGs as their meter readers because of one major thing. When boys go, it's very easy for the household to say, well, the man of the house is not there, we'll pay later. But when these women go, they go as aunts and cousins and sisters of the women who are already there. They enter the kitchens and they say, this is your electricity bill and can you please pay it? And they understand the dynamics of electricity. And we are also trying to get them to be the next level, where they can do a little bit of fuse correction and line. So again, though it is a cultural problem, we are trying to address this by getting them into hardcore male bastions. Paddy procurement in Odisha is being done by SHGs, and it is a business of 400 crores for the women. I mean, just that segment they are taking. It is a much wider thing. So you have iris scanners. They operate iris scanners to identify that this is the farmer and this is his land. So it does encourage more and more women farmers to come to the mandis, which is again a problem in many areas. You see, there are certain segments of government which women do not come to, transport offices and mandis. But when women are sitting there measuring your bags and doing your iris scanning, more single women headed households can be represented. More women do come into the mandis.
And sorry, Ms. Sujata, yes. That is because often women are comfortable talking to other women.
Other women.
Yes. In that social context, in that cultural context, it's appropriate for a woman to talk to another woman. But if a man is doing it, sometimes a woman might feel it could be misconstrued for a different kind of conversation.
Yes.
So they're more open when there's
they
women
are more open.
There. Is that that's what you're saying as well?
They are more open. So when they do it for 1 or 2 years, they get that confidence. And then even if there is a man on the other side, they know what to do. So it basically breaks the glass ceiling. We're not saying always women would be there, but for other women, it just makes them more comfortable dealing with women. And that's why then hundreds and thousands of women come out into public spaces, which hitherto they wouldn't. So to address, again, nutritional requirements of women, Odisha was a pioneer state that started a cash transfer to pregnant women, which has now become a national scheme too in India. We started the Mamta scheme, which said we understand that women's nutritional requirements are really relegated to the back, but when she's pregnant, she has certain requirements. So we put very soft conditions and, made the house also sign. So even if there's a mother-in-law or a husband or whoever, or even if she lives alone. So the family takes care of her nutrition needs, and because of that, she gets a cash transfer into her bank account. So this worked very well, and women came into the fold, and the institutional deliveries rose because of it, leading to healthier children and healthier mothers. So one has to work with cultural, social norms which exist so as to break them. So in the long run, then they don't remain.
One other question on this, cultural and social norms have so many threads to them, right?
Yes,
it's history, it's business, it's religion, it's language, has so many threads. But a big thread is government, right?
Yes.
And the fact that Mission Shakti is a government-enabled program, and really it's in partnership with these self-help groups and these DVs and others, as you mentioned, but it is a government program. And the fact that the government program is saying, no, we want women to be doing this. We want women to be electricity collectors. We want women to be helping, like you said, minor electricity related things. We want women to be, doing some of these critical economy building jobs. Would you say maybe that also has an influence, saying, okay, well, government has said this is what we're doing.
Yes.
And to some people around the world, that doesn't mean anything. But to some people, that means something. Okay, government is saying this. Can you speak to that at all?
Oh, yeah. This in fact, is a very critical part of the, the success story of Odisha, that government has walked the talk. And there is such great faith in the government that if you say that, there is a government training program, 9 out of 10 times, even the male members of the house would say, okay, go and attend. There may be something to come out. There is a lot of faith that government will deliver, number one. Second is also, you see, when they are represented in all these committees of government, it gives them a unique identity. There's a very interesting anecdote that, a group of women, SHG women, were called by Honorable Chief Minister, and he asked them that, okay, are you getting your pani, and is your sadak okay, and this, that. So one of the elderly ladies held his hand and said, no, we are getting all that and you are giving us all that, but there is something more important that you have given us that nobody else did. That is our identity, parichay. So this is a very unique thing, which is a government-motivated, government-run thing. So when they go for training programs, women actually come up to me and say, I'm not known as so-and-so's wife and so-and-so's daughter-in-law. the other women of the village still trainer didi ja rahi hai. It makes her work 2 inches taller, which is something we take for granted, having got educated and having jobs and money in our accounts. We take this for granted. But you see, for a woman who never had identity, her mothers and grandmothers didn't have any identity apart from belonging to the men that they did. This is a huge thing. And this is government run. So when she sits on a committee which is chaired by the collector of the district, and she goes back and said, I met the collector today and this is what we discussed. She has a different identity in the village that no one can take away from her. So when you integrate them in all these committees, when their voices are heard, decision-making depends on them, and there is money in their account. So it's a whole new ball game then. Then you see, you don't have to do too many things with the women. They take off on their own.
This is amazing. There's so many lessons that I hope everyone who's listening are learning from this. And some of these are, as you said, low-hanging fruit. Invite them to the meeting.
That's
right.
And hear them out.
Listen to what they have to say. Yes. It feels like it's not something that's always resource intensive, right? And I think that's an important lesson as well here. Really, it's more about intention a lot of the time. So, Ms. Sujata, forgive me, you have given us a lot to think about and a lot to learn from. And I would say, let's say the world, let's say if I'm using a metaphor, you have passed you have a master's degree, you have a PhD now in doing all of this work. We're all still undergraduate students learning from you. So, but what I want to hear from you is what keeps you up at night. So what are the challenges of the program? You have had a lot of successes. You have 7 million women that you are working with and looking, in some ways looking after, some ways we're building together this economy of Odisha, especially post-COVID. What keeps you up at night now? What are the big challenges for the program in your mind? What worries you that maybe someone here or someone in the audience can help you with? Tell us what you're thinking about these days.
Yes. So definitely a program of this magnitude will have challenges, and we do have. So we've crossed the first few stages. I think the original aim of Mission Shakti has been achieved. We federated women, got them together, got them talking about economics, health, finance, social security, and it has given off multitude. The payoffs have been multitudinous. We've impacted a lot of lives, and women have done it themselves. I wouldn't say we've impacted. The challenge right now is, you see, Mission Shakti was basically, the root of it is financial empowerment, the root of it. So if there's money in the hands of women and sustainable sources of income, that is when the program will just have a momentum of its own. And it has happened to a great degree, it has happened. But how can we leverage digital solutions now to give them access to finances, to make them bigger than they are? How can we leverage, they have a smartphone, yes, but that's about it. So how can we leverage the entire digital economy, which is making waves everywhere? Can we get them on e-commerce platforms? Because their products are unique. There are a range of products which are so unique, but how do we train them so that they can get into this mass production on time, quality aspects, marketing? So I'd say marketing is something that really keeps me up. You have women making beautiful saris, beautiful handicrafts. Odisha is known for its handicrafts and handlooms. You have women waiting to enter into the service sector. How can they get into hotel and tourism? How can they become, hospital administrators, local? So we have a program where the hospital diet management is done by women. All the government hospitals, we try phase-wise where the diets are given by women. But how can we make them much more than that? And can the digital economy help us on that? Because everything cannot be done. There is a limit to what you can do physically. And as I said, we have to work with the social norms that exist. So a woman who's basically at home, how can we leverage digital technologies to help her earn, to help her get an account, to help her get financial products? The second thing is to deepen the financial inclusion to more products and services. Can we talk insurance? Can we talk other financial products? Can we talk of loans when she needs it, even micro loans? It doesn't have to be loans of a big, yeah.
Why?
How can we work?
Ms. Sujata, tell us why. Why is this deepening of their financial access to a deeper, why is that important to you? Why is it worrying you? Tell us.
So we see that, okay, loans, we have reached a particular level where we know now every SHG that goes to a bank, if she's eligible, she will get a loan. The group will get a loan. So what usually happens is they get a loan of 2 lakhs, and if they're doing a business, they put some money in it, or they just divide the money and, they use it for household consumption, which is also important, which in no way we can negate. That is also one. But then there are so many financial products that normal urban working people have access to. Why can't the woman in the field have access to that? Should we just end with that bank account and loan taking? Whereas you see things like a small pension. Can she get a small pension after the age of 60 when she can no longer go and work in the field maybe? Can we have some system where she's earning right now and she puts, say, 10 rupees, 20 rupees into some kind of, can the market provide her that? Because this is a need and we have to address the need. Another challenge is, you see, today it's aspirational. It's an aspirational society. It's a new economy. Can women fit into this new economy? It's no longer the buddy, papad and pickles economy. And that is very important and they have a niche segment in that. But can they get into other sectors, the service sector, so to say? Can they run canteens? Can they run tourism centers? Can they run eco-retreats? Can they do management of forests? There are so many areas which we want our women to enter into, and they can. How can we leverage data, technology, digital solutions to get them to do that? How do we train them? How can we maintain that high level of training and quality consciousness, marketing? These are the questions that they ask us. That is why it is important for us to answer that. And that is why then Mission Shakti remains relevant.
Yeah, I mean, what I hear you saying is we must remain vigilant.
Yes.
This is an evolution. And one, what I think is really interesting is the democratization of financial services is what you're talking about.
Yes.
I like how you said, well, if we have access, why shouldn't they have access?
Yes.
Why can't we figure out a business model that works for them,
yes.
given that they do have income and they do
yes.
have steady income and they have proven to be strong customers and stewards and economic participants of the economy.
Yes.
So that's exciting. The democratization of financial services in Orissa is amazing. And the second thing I really hear you saying is, why shouldn't women be builders of the new economy?
Yes, participants in that.
Why shouldn't they? Why should they just essentially be beneficiaries? They should be builders. They should be building it with us. They have the skills. They can attain the skills. They want to attain the skills. Yes. To be building it with us.
Yes.
Building it with all of us. And that's hard, but that's hard. I mean, there's still, I think the other piece that you said very lightly, but I'm going to pull out that you said is along the threads of doing these things, of increasing financial democratization and making women builders of the new economy, you have to do it along the lines of these social and cultural norms. When is a moment that makes sense for women to be getting trained? For example, when my daughter's sleeping.
Yes. Yes. When I cooked my lunch and there's time for dinner. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I really, when you said morning time, I said, oh no, that's a night. And so, I think that's so important, that thread of you're trying to push it to the next level, right? Like I said, you have the PhD, you're pushing it to the next level. You've already accomplished what so many people want to, that's what they want to accomplish now with so many women across the world. You've accomplished it with, in partnership with these 7 million women, but the next step is these things. And, yes. But that you still must do it with that thread of social and cultural norms.
And in trying to do that with the thread of social and cultural norms, you gradually on the way break the norms also.
Tell us about that.
So as I said, when you work with women, I mean, it has been my experience throughout. Say, simple things like I gave you so many examples of, what would you say? All these things like, women being participants in committees. So earlier when we were collectors, we were in the field. And Odisha has this 33% reservation for women in Panchayati Raj institutions. So we have 60,000 ward members and sarpanches and all who are women, and many of them are from the Mission Shakti network. So earlier when we were collectors and all, they would put forth a slip where you say, okay, Sarpanch so-and-so has come to meet you. Sarpanch is basically the head of the village who is elected. And we have reserved categories for women. So then you see that, okay, so-and-so has come to see you. And then you see a man walks in, but the name was of a woman. So when you ask them, they say, no, she's a lady. So what would she talk to you? And also I'm representing her. That will be the husband. So initially we would say that, look, no husband and all that. Only the wife has to come. Now you go to the field and you see women are so vocal, doing so well. And some of the best sarpanches and ward members and all are women. And then they get re-elected on their own right. They do not need reservations to get re-elected. So gradually along the way, over 20 years, you realize they have grown much more than what government schemes, originally intended to. Like you take electricity meter readers, when we started, it was tentative, because they said, how would we operate these machines? And let's see, would we make mistakes? And there was a whole lobby which was against it because they were the ones who were getting that work and that commission. So then when women went in, there were problems. But gradually you see, they want to now progress to linemen and electricity companies who were initially dubious about can they do it. They want them because their collections are much, much more. So it's not really charity when you work with women. It's not, they perform equally good as men. Then when, Odisha has the scheme of all panchayat tanks, which are ponds, village ponds, are auctioned. Every state does it. But before they are auctioned at the highest bid, the choice is given to the SHG of the village to take it. And they can give it at a minimal price. This is documented. It's a government order. So when initially they started doing it, they would depend on the men for the feed and netting of fish is a major male activity. So, half your money would go in just getting men to net the fish. Then we realized, no, they have to be taught. Even this netting has to be taught. And gradually now we see, no, netting is being done by women themselves. And they are filleting it. And many places made dried fish, which are export quality, are being done by women. So while working with social norms, you gradually realize that it has a momentum of its own and it breaks the social norms which it was working with. And then, it's unfettered. And younger women look up to their mothers and grandmothers and say, well, they can earn, so can we. It pushes more women into schools and colleges. Yeah,
absolutely. We're nearing the end of our time. Ms. Sujata, this has been a fascinating conversation, at least for me. I hope for whoever is listening, it was also fascinating. I am so, I don't even know what word it is. I'm so pleased. I'm so proud especially this last point you're talking about. And here's the reason. I think they're one of the most controversial topics in the world on women's economic empowerment is the setting of quotas, is the setting of even guided targets to include more women in participation of discussions, of leadership roles, of groups of people that are making important decisions for a community, for a country. And the point that you make that's so powerful is, we give them that extra edge in the beginning, and then they learn what that is, right? They become exposed to it and understand what that system is, which does take learning. And then they're able to do it on their own in that next generation. And I just think that's a really important point.
Yeah, that is for men too, no? Nobody learns it. Nobody has intuitive knowledge of things. You learn, you make mistakes. And just because historically women have been relegated to stay at home doesn't mean they can't perform equally, and which, across the world it has been seen. So even though it should not sound patronizing, but it's a fact that women perform even on the economic front, even on the economic. Otherwise, companies would not take women as meter readers and paddy procurers and all if they were not doing a good job, because somehow then the market steps in. But you see, they have been doing very well. So a little bit of hand-holding goes a long way. And the right political and government environment, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Sujata. This has been a fascinating conversation, a very nice way to start my morning. I hope a nice way to start everyone's morning. Thank you very much for your time and your wisdom and your great work. And looking forward to hearing more as time goes on.
Thank you. Thank you. We are all inspired by the 7 million women we work for. Their stories are amazing. Thank you.